Hello and welcome to the fourth edition of Half Hour, a podcast starring me, John Paulo Giudice, as your host. In today's episode, I will discuss psychedelics and reality with my friend and former coworker, Ryan Beers. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, bro.
All right, so tell us what you've been up to. Like, how's the whole work life going?
Work life. I work at a liquor store. It's the new Market Basket liquor store, the new Edition liquor store. So we're one of two locations in the whole state, and it's been pretty hard work setting up the store for the last 6-8 months.
Yeah, I've had some buddies working in grocery stores before, and I know that it can be a lot, interacting with the customers and, stocking and all these things. But
yeah.
It is a good community job. Like, I do Instacart occasionally.
Me too.
And I sometimes the people are like, God bless you, like you're really doing a lot for the community. And I never think about it like that, but
right.
I guess on a deeper level it is like that. But I think
in a way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get kind of like detached from that. Like they'll just, I'm doing my job and I'm meaningless. But I don't know, I don't think so. I think every job has a meaning.
Definitely. You're giving a service to the community. Imagine you're sitting at home and you're trying to watch some show and you're just so lazy, you don't want to go out, and then you have this opportunity to hire somebody else to do your dirty work for you. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, and it's like you're helping someone else's life. You're giving them meaning and purpose to do something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be defined by my job, obviously.
Nah, especially not a delivery job like that.
Yeah, but I don't know. It is helpful. Like it's cool to like understand. Like how that's like gonna help the community.
And you get to meet bits of the community too.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's so widespread and so separated that it's nice to just go to this part of town or that part of town and meet this person, or even not, to know what people are antisocial, like leave it at my door, versus like, hey, how's it going? I'll take the order from you. How was your day?
Yeah, like there was this one time where I was given a cash tip, and I was like, oh my God, like thank you, like I really appreciate it. Like it was huge. Like that's very meaningful to me. Like just when someone goes out of their way to give you a cash tip on Instacart.
Yeah.
On Instacart, typically it's just all done online.
Pretty much. Same with DoorDash, which I do more often than Instacart.
I have a DoorDash card. I never used it though. I never did an order.
A card? Like the red card?
No, yeah, they gave me the card.
Yeah.
But I never went out and did an order with it.
So I opt out of that because it takes more time. So I do the deliveries, but I'll do a delivery and it'll ask before I accept a delivery whether or not I want to do a delivery where I just pick up the stuff that's already ready at like a Friendly's or something.
Yeah.
Or go into, let's say, Walgreens, find the stuff, pick it out, and then I'll use this dedicated card that you're talking about. And I don't really like that because it takes away from my time, and I would get more money sometimes doing the other option. But sometimes going out and shopping does make me more money just because I've been to that store before, let's say, and I know where everything is, so I'm in and out like that. Get $20 for just shopping for somebody else. Instacart, DoorDash, there's this alcohol app named Grizzly for deliveries for alcohol.
I've heard of Grizzly. We don't use that at the liquor store. We use Uber Eats, but
DoorDash is doing it too now. They just started doing it.
It's kind of crazy to me, you can just order alcohol and have it delivered to your door, that's 21st century, man.
Seriously.
But
yeah, at the end of it, I have essentially 3 jobs. I have the liquor store job, I have DoorDash, and I have Instacart that I do as my 3 primaries. And then some side jobs here and there for neighbors and family and stuff I get paid for too.
I remember over the winter break, I shoveled snow with my neighbor. We would drive around, and it was like towards the afternoon, evening. Even at night we were doing it too. We were just shoveling people's driveways, making some money. We did pretty good. We made I think we each came out with like $100.
That's pretty good.
Worked for 5 hours, so it wasn't terrible. We also helped people in our neighborhood. I got to meet some people in my neighborhood and help them. That is the reality that I live in, at least. I really began to process this a little more. I grew up on this street at this address pretty much my whole life, and I just look around the neighborhood, and it was just really interesting to some people were do you want my number, in case you want to do this again, blah blah blah.
Right.
Maybe I should have taken them. I think I took someone's number, but I lost it or something. I don't know, I wrote it on a paper and it was gone, and oh my God. But next winter, what's stopping me from doing that again? If I have a free weekend day, there's a huge snowstorm.
Nothing, man.
Why not? It's just
it's good money. And it's not easy, I guess not. Cause
it's a good workout though.
It's a good workout.
Imagine getting paid to sort of go to the gym. I mean, a lot of my buddies
people
are.
pay to go to the gym.
Yeah, a lot of my buddies love the gym. Like they love it. Like I know a lot of people that spend a lot of time there.
Mhm.
And it's no substitute for a gym workout, but
Yeah.
you're still working out. You know, like that's the argument I'm making here. Like, you know, you might work out your back a little bit. You might work out your arms. You know, like shoveling that snow. So it was good. You know, it was definitely good.
That's true. Native Americans were ripped, you know. They worked out, they hunted, they climbed trees, they made stuff with their hands. I mean, they were ripped.
They were really one with the environment that they found themselves in. You know?
Yes, there was respect to it. You wouldn't just kill a deer and just eat it. You would like say a prayer and then
Use all of it.
Use every part of it. Yes. Yeah. Any part you couldn't, you would like put into compost even.
So what's interesting to me is that, did you know that Native Americans didn't have horses until the colonization of the New World?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Isn't that like crazy? Like, because they didn't have a lot of animals that were capable of animal husbandry.
Right.
So like in the old world, you had horses.
Cows, chickens, sheep, right?
Yeah, exactly. You had a lot more animals that were more friendly to like human management, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
In the New World, they had the alpaca and the buffalo.
Pretty
You know,
much.
like those are two of them, and it's like good luck like trying to get
Deer.
a buffalo, a deer, an alpaca to do anything. Like, you know, like so. I feel like their whole existence was quite different. You know, like they were just on a different level. The Inca, Aztec, and Mayan civilizations were really cool though. Those are like the big three that I know about. Like those are like some of the most important like ancient civilizations that existed in the New World. The Incas always fascinated me because for example, like they had like the people who would run, and they would run like mail and stuff like to and from like different parts of the empire.
Right.
Machu Picchu. I might not be saying that right, but
Probably.
you know what I'm, yeah. Good luck. You know. You know you know what I'm talking about though. It's like the city of the clouds. Like I've always wanted to visit there. I think it's cool.
It's really cool. You know, a lot of these South American ancient cultures had access to psychedelics.
So now we're getting into the meat of it.
Yes, right. So like they do a lot of their like crazy rituals and sacrifice to the gods. A lot of that's about, I guess like a modern metaphor would be karma. Like there's this insistence that bad things happen, good things happen, and those things happen for reasons. And there's a metaphysical thing to the objective reasoning, like whether something's good or bad for the village is different than your good or bad or my good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can all objectively agree that this goat should be thrown into the volcano, then we should have good luck from now on.
Yeah,
is the logic.
It's funny how they come to these conclusions, you know, like how cultures will like kind of like understand the world in that way.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie? I can't remember what it's called,
Mm.
but they literally, it's in one of these cultures in Central and South America at this time. There's like a solar eclipse, and they like pull this dude's heart out and roll him down the stairs.
Incas. Yeah, I think that's the Incas.
Do you know what movie that was though? Like why? I'm like blanking so hard. It was a movie like the eclipse was happening, the sky went dark, and they just like ripped this guy's heart out and threw him down the stairs, and like there was a war and like someone was running. I should really look into the title of this movie. But
You know, that reminds me of, I don't know the leader, but there was like I know there was a Spanish dude that came to South America. And
Cortez maybe?
it could have been, but it was someone like that. And
Conquistador.
it was a conquistador. And at the time, there was this interest in the stars because in like the 15, 16, even 1700s, there wasn't much information about like astrology. Like we didn't even know Neptune was a planet.
Yeah.
Or like Pluto was a thing.
Uranus.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were very interested in the way that the world works and like the patterns of all the objects that move in the sky, or the wandering stars as people would call them for so long, the planets.
Yeah.
And when we were able to predict in the European world when lunar and solar eclipses would happen, we took that, or at least the conquistadors did, to the Americas, and then we would go with translators to these tribal people and say, we are gods. We know when the next eclipse will happen. Because these people kind of understand when it's going to happen, but they can't do it to a certainty. But with European mathematics in the Enlightenment era, we were able to do it to like the hour. And so we could be like, and I am God, and put my hands up and the sky would darken. and that freaked people out.
Yeah, because they had the knowledge that they didn't.
Yes.
You know, like they weren't like there yet. It's very fascinating. Like they just didn't have that kind of technological superiority, maybe.
Sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
See, to me, it's fascinating because they did think the Spanish were gods for that reason, and on top of that, they rode in on these horses with clad, shiny iron armor.
The giant boats.
Yeah, like it just sitting out in the Atlantic, like it's crazy to me, you know. They came in, like I think they were only in the Bronze Age, if I'm not mistaken. Like their weapons were bronze, and the Spanish weapons were like steel and iron.
Yes.
So like they just, in terms of combat, they didn't stand a chance, you know.
Not even close.
And it's just sad that the world worked like that back then. Like, it's just awful to think about. Like that human history is just filled with so much brutality and war and violence, and you know we always hope to get away from that, like human equality.
Right.
But
well, it's a consequence of people wanting to maintain their individual cultures and lifestyles. People don't want to submit to an Islamic lifestyle in America. People don't want to submit to an American lifestyle in China.
yeah,
Everyone has their niche, and it's impossible to convince somebody to be part of yours if you're comfortable with yours unless you force them.
right.
And that's part of the problem, because everyone wants their idea to be the correct one, and if only everyone could agree with me.
Right.
And it's selfish.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing, but at the end of the day, this selfishness has also been able to breed things like the moon landing. And even though there was a World War II, we've had peace for 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
And these selfish ideals have allowed us to be in our echo chambers for good, for a little while at least. But psychedelics allow individuals to realize that there is more to the world than just the nationalism. And there's more to the world than the communions and relationships between the individuals and, let's say, your family or your friends. There's just, the world is so much bigger than the humans.
Mm-hmm.
So much larger. And that's, I think, lost on a lot of the people that want to join the military or, like, go fight ISIS as a freelance soldier in Iraq or something. Mm-hmm. Or even, I don't know.
Americans going into Ukraine.
Right, and there's nothing, I guess, at the end of the day...
There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I argue there could be. I was going to say that, but it's not good to go to war. I think war is bad. I actually...
Last resort type thing, you know.
You know, I almost joined the Marines. And when I was 17, I had my mom sign all the paperwork to put me into the Marines. And when you can't do it on your own unless you're 18, so I had my mom do it for me.
Yeah.
And I was meeting with this recruiter at a coffee shop for the last 6 months. And then I had taken LSD for the first time, and I'd realized through that experience that I was going to war with people I didn't even understand. Like, I could be fighting for these people had I grew up in their neighborhood.
Right.
And there was no point in fighting people who are just fighting me because I'm invading their home. That's not fair to them.
Yeah.
And I ghosted my recruiter. I only had to sign one piece of paper, and it was my signature too, not my mom's this time. Last piece of paper.
Like those here.
And it was to go to Paris Island. That was it. If I had signed that on my 18th birthday, it would have been shipped to North Carolina. But I didn't sign it, and I ended up moving shortly thereafter and never considered it again. And I'm very glad I did not go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a path that isn't for everybody. I mean, I've had that thought kind of cross my mind. I never went too seriously about it.
May I have your attention, please? The library will be closing in 15 minutes. Any materials that you have should be checked out at this time. Public computers will shut down in 5 minutes. Staff
Isn't that
computers will
wonderful?
shut down in 10 minutes. The library will be closing in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Talking about reality, there's a reality check right there. But it's
Yeah.
good. It's keeping time for us because we're about halfway through the segment.
That's good, yeah.
But where was I? That totally flipped my lid. It's not for everybody, like joining the military. It's
Right.
not for everybody. I considered it at one point. I don't know. I still, that thought still lingers in my head even after I graduate. Like it's still lingering.
Me
I
too.
don't know. Like it's just not a question I can answer right now. But I have friends that have gone into the military, and maybe it was the right choice for them because you can really make a career there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you could also make a career at a car dealership.
Yeah.
Screw people for a living. You know?
Yeah, seriously. This is all like part of like the kind of when you're getting older, you should be trying to move up and keep like pushing, like pushing your own boundaries and stuff. I mean, we're still relatively young, so it's kind of like we're not. Our reality is such that we are relegated to a lower status just because we're younger.
That's true.
I heard a very good adage that was like, as you get older, you should be getting wealthier. That's like how it should be working. Like, maybe people get wealthier at different rates. I mean, people do start off at different points. This is true. But I think that the inequity and inequality in the world will always exist.
Yeah, agreed.
Like there's not, I mean, as the United States, we're doing something about it by providing a nation that you're able to move up in. Like a lot of countries, you can't do that. Like you just can't move up in the same way.
Well,
there are countries that don't even offer you citizenship unless you're of the bloodline.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like unless you're like of the.
What countries are those?
So one of my buddies I met in Europe was telling me in Kuwait, his parents are from India. They moved there to work. They haven't offered them citizenship, or they haven't been able to pursue it because they're not Kuwaiti. So you have to be like, I'm not even sure if marrying in would get you this citizenship.
Like an expat and then have a kid in Kuwait?
Yeah, I mean maybe that kid would have the
opportunity.
They might have the opportunity or the citizenship, but what I do know is that this country is not so forthcoming with citizenship any way you cut it. What I could be saying might be incorrect. However, I do know that this country is a bit more closed towards citizenship. They offer a lot of work permits. A lot of people, especially from India and South Asia, they come in and they work there because it's a better life. You can make good money in Kuwait, but you don't have. I would argue it's not a home because you're not like able to, like the government can just cancel you at any time and send you home, or send you. For example, my buddy, you would get sent to a country that he's never even lived in, but his citizenship says he's from there. But he grew up in Kuwait, so it's pretty well. So it's just fascinating to me that we live in a world that kind of operates this way. And for everyone wondering, that thumbs up was an employee that told us about the timeline. Maybe we should have come here earlier, but we're already.
We managed to get here almost on time.
But I mean. It's kind of going back to what you were saying about psychedelics. A lot of cultures engage in this kind of like operation, if you will. Like they'll get the whole community, they'll sit down. I know Native Americans were pretty prolific in that on both continents, North and South America. So where do you know where mushrooms are from originally? Like, are they from like the Guatemala area, like the Mayan area, or like,
well,
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be a smart ass for a second, but there are mushrooms everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, and then I want to say that you're probably speaking about the psychoactive mushrooms.
Correct.
And that would be psilocybin-based mushrooms. And there are many different species of psilocybin-based mushrooms that exist on every continent except Antarctica.
Okay.
I would say that the conditions for psilocybin mushrooms are very specific despite the widespread ability. To say that like you're more likely to find them in an African savanna where there's lots of animal, like bovine, cow-like animals, like bison or however what.
That's where you find them?
Well, you could find them there. You could also find them in like the eastern Russian wilderness they're...
Is there a mushroom that looks like the Mario mushroom?
That is not a coincidence that Mario, being one of the most famous video games, includes a mushroom that when eaten makes you grow larger and more powerful.
So maybe the proper statement would be...
So that's the Amanita muscaria mushroom. That's the Santa Claus mushroom. So
yeah, because it's like very red and white.
So that's where the idea of Santa comes from. Theoretically, it comes from like Eastern Slavic cultures like Mr. Frost or like Father Time and stuff, right? And basically, like,
I didn't know that.
You would eat the Amanita muscaria mushrooms of the elk shit, pardon my French, but like, elk feces and deer and reindeer feces would produce these red and white mushrooms that you would then eat. So that's why Santa's red and white, and that's why when you take the mushrooms you feel like enlightened and you're floating. So it's almost like some sort of flight, which is why Santa rides 10 reindeer
On
and
the
then
sled in the
flies
sky.
into the sky, and he gives people who deserve it gifts. Because part of psychedelics, I have a quote that I always say, it's my personal quote that I'm borrowing from a friend of mine, but psychedelics don't work on ignorant people. And so people that are uncaring, unkind, and unwilling to take the lessons from it won't get the lessons from it. They'll just get high, like you would if you were taking mescaline in an unexplained, or like ecstasy at a club.
Yeah,
It's
things
not
like that.
it's not metaphysical unless you make it metaphysical. You have to initiate a shamanic experience for it to be really grandiose like that.
So I know that in other cultures they use ayahuasca.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I do know that it makes you sick, right? Like you can get sick from it.
Ayahuasca, it makes you deathly ill. It's terrible. It sucks.
So like, why would someone want to do something like that if it makes you that sick? Like, what is the benefit there?
Well, the sickness is a temporary side effect. I guess the best way I could put it is, if you could suddenly snap your fingers and know everything there was to know. Let's say you wanted to do that, because some people wouldn't want to do that.
So it's kind of like when someone says like, oh, like imagine if you could speak every language.
Right, but the
Okay.
caveat to that is every time you speak the first 3 words, you vomit.
Hmm.
It's sort of like that. It's like, yes, the vomiting sucks, but what you're getting as a reward for such a sickness is way worth it, depending if you're ignorant or not.
So it's all about like the experience and like the.
It's
There's
set,
a shepherd,
set
right?
and
Like someone will
setting.
shepherd you with it, like
A
I know-
shaman, yeah.
Yeah.
A shaman. It's all about set and setting. Like, you and I in this podcast right now would not want to take an 8th of shrooms. This would be a terrible idea.
Yeah.
We would not want to go, like, I have work later. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to take that, go to work and deal
I
with
also
customers.
work. Yeah. It would
But,
be,
like,
it'd be tough.
exactly.
It's also illegal at the moment.
I think shrooms are decriminalized in Massachusetts.
Are they really?
But psilocybin is, yes. Up to 6 grams.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But DMT in the that's what ayahuasca's main ingredient is.
DMT.
DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Psilocybin and DMT are like chemically identical, despite like they have one difference. It's like one nitrogen atom is in one and not the other.
So psilocybin's more organic though, right? Like DMT's a bit more.
No, I would say they're both organic. So actually, let's delve into DMT, because I feel like psilocybin, like you can search all you want about psilocybin, but DMT is like, it's been weirded out of the mainstream because of Joe Rogan. I feel like he's tainted the view on it,
Okay.
and people sort of look at him like a goofball, and so they don't take DMT seriously anymore. And I love Joe Rogan, but I just don't think that they take it seriously anymore, and it really could be this like amazing thing if just people took the time to actually consider what it is.
There was the episode with Alex Jones, and he was like, I saw the little green elves and stuff, and I'm like wondering like what they were making it seem like everybody sees those, or like a lot of people see them.
No.
Like I don't even know like what.
Before I was pondering what we were going to talk about, I actually thought about this specific
Mhm.
line of questioning and conversation, because every single person interprets the world differently. Reality is different to you than it is for me. Your red might not be the same as my red.
Gotcha.
And when you're interpreting your reality, you interpret it through metaphors and personification. Through storytelling. We use language to storytell and explain. This is why we like stories and watch movies and like music. It's all about the path and order of things, whether it be the actual math of the patterns of music or the words being spoken is irrelevant. But when you're on a psychedelic, whether it be LSD, psilocybin, DMT, peyote, any psychedelic, what you will see is going to be relevant to the specific psychedelic you're taking, and relevant to the culture and the environment you've grown up in. So for example, you give a Muslim from birth who is 25 3 grams of psilocybin.
Like maybe he lives in like the Levant or something.
Sure, yes. And he would probably freak out and also see a lot of demonic Islamic imagery because of how confined the Islamic religion is, unless they're a really good-spirited person and they really do mean well from the bottom of their heart. They're not going to have a good time just because of their religion.
Mhm.
And I've met people that are very, very Christian or staunchly atheist who take DMT or psilocybin and have terrible experiences.
It's about like the depth of, like their religious experience. So.
But they see what they believe. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing, but you wouldn't see Islamic imagery if you're Christian.
Mhm.
And if you don't have imagery to preconceive, like if you don't have an idea of what you believe in, then you're just going to see random stuff, the green aliens, the goblins, the four-dimensional shapes. Because you don't have any ideas of what you should be looking at, it's not going to make it easier for you to understand. You're just going to see it as it is. And it's confusing for us, but like, those green elves are just the best way that we can explain these things. We just don't have the words. It's ineffable. That's a good word. It's unspeakable. And we do our best, but it comes out insane.
Yeah, like it's just crazy to me how there are so many of these like psychedelic drugs that just naturally exist and like they're just around the world. There's a theory that they might actually be responsible for some evolution, because if an animal eats it by accident, or like, let's say a chimpanzee, or not a chimpanzee, whatever, Australopithecus, whatever our common ancestor might be.
The last one.
Imagine if one of these creatures ate a lot of these mushrooms in one sitting.
Yeah.
You know, like, what were their thoughts about? Because you're right when you say, like, it like develops the mind and it like moves, it like allows the brain to create new connections.
Yes.
And that's more what I'm saying.
The neuroplasticity stuff.
Yeah, so maybe when this creature took these mushrooms, it could have been responsible for an increase in intellect or like an increase in like the specific behavior.
Absolutely.
And then that gets carried on and like through the genome.
It takes away when you do these psychedelics, and I think this will be a final point because we're hitting our time in a minute or two. But like when you take these psychedelics, I think in a communal setting. So okay, I'm actually going to go through Stone Ape theory. You ever heard of Stone Ape theory?
No, I've not.
Okay, so
Is it similar to what I was just talking about?
very much so.
Okay.
Monkeys, we come, if you believe in evolution, we came from primates.
Mm-hmm.
Primates used to be tree-dwelling primates. Used to
Okay.
be up in canopies, right?
Yeah.
The Sahara, the northern Sahara, used to be a lush jungle and was dried out due to a great flood.
Okay.
The Great Flood. in
And
fact.
the climate change and like,
Well, that was the Great Flood, is due to climate change.
so it
So
made
you
the
know
desert.
the religious Great Flood, like with Noah's Ark and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
That one wiped out the Sahara and salinated it into a desert.
Interesting.
Okay, so then all these monkeys that were on the border no longer could survive in trees because the trees were too sparse. They weren't close together in jungles. They became savannas from the terrible soil. So they had to come down from the trees. Now walk. Now when they came down from the trees and walked, they were looking for food, and they couldn't find much because they weren't very good hunters. They were gatherers, more or less. So what they would do is gather and literally try anything they could. And they would go and find these bison fields, and because they couldn't hunt the bison without tools or without 10 people tackling and breaking the neck of a bison, good luck, you would have to go into the feces of this thing, and out would grow these mushrooms. And then they would eat them out of scarce. They would eat them out of necessity. There's no other food. But then they would hallucinate, because it is food, but they would also hallucinate. And the cool thing is that if you microdose psilocybin, for example, it actually improves your ability to distinguish lines and sharp edges, and it can also help you see up to 20 feet further clearly. So it increases visual acuity. And this can make you a better hunter. And then with more of psilocybin, it makes you horny, which makes you want to procreate, and that means more children. And then with more, it makes you have these grand experiences that make you think in these wider
And
ways.
it can shape your mind and alter your kind of genetic makeup.
Language.
The language comes out of that too.
Language.
See, it's so fascinating to me that in the world we live in, like we just have so many, scientific ways of looking at like these drugs that kind of like affect the human mind and other things. But we're finishing up here, so I'd like to say thank you for coming on.
Yeah, anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
Ryan Beers, everyone. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye. Thank you very much.